Good evening, and welcome to the Selectmen's meeting for Thursday, May 22nd, 2014. Our agenda tonight will begin with the approval of 3 sets of minutes. Then we have the Hingham Girl Scouts doing a presentation of their historical map. We have a number of grant of locations to do. I'm not going to read them all because we'll be here for a half an hour. And then we have the Cable Advisory Committee coming in to do a presentation on some of their budget items. We have this Affordable Housing Trust talking about the Selectmen's parcel and a couple RFPs that we're going to be doing. We will do appointments, Selectmen and Town Administrator reports, and then we will adjourn to an executive session. This will be one of a few executive sessions over the next year. We've all pledged to keep this as transparent as possible, but unfortunately, this time we do have to adjourn to executive session. So, with that, let's go.
I'll make a motion that we vote to approve the minutes of April 28, 2014, May 8, 2014, May 14, 2014, as written.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Jerry Duff, are you the Girl Scouts?
You like me?
And if the girls would come up also?
Never been on this side of the bench.
First time for everything, Jerry.
Okay, it's yours.
In 1927, 2 Girl Scouts got together, did the research. An adult, Beatrice Rule, did the sketches. They put together this historical map of Hingham. They had them printed and sold them to support the Hingham Girl Scout House. Speaking with Eileen McCracken not too long ago, she informed me they did not have a map at Town Hall, and we thought it would be nice to present their very own copy to the inhabitants of Town Hall, so that you could see what we all know.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what's on the map?
Well, there's different, like, the social hotspots of the time, so there's things like the Witch's End, which are, like, very different from today, like Nona's or just Town Hall, like you have the senior center and different things here, the rec center. Yeah.
Would the two of you introduce yourself? Because I'm sure your parents are out there watching. So let's...
Right there.
Not far.
Would they be the ones with the cameras? Introduce yourself for the public.
I'm Kyle Thorne.
And I'm Sarah Boucher.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So what was the hot spot back in the day?
There were a few different ones. It was definitely like witches,
Bears.
bears, different things just that were like fanatics at that time. I don't know.
You didn't look at the map, did you?
I've seen it a few times, but not a lot, and I haven't seen it in a while. I saw it when they first started reselling them.
Do you want to add anything? No?
So we're hoping that this map will hang in Ted's office so that he will be able to find his way around town to the exciting places like the Bear Pit at Melville Garden and things like that.
Would you?
Or have you been in the Bear Pit?
I don't know. Harry, have I been in the bear pit? You've taken me all over the place. Okay.
Okay?
Well, I would thank you very much. It'll hang with pride in the office and hopefully be there for many years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Our first grant of location, and they are going to be a hard act to follow, so. This is Aquarian on, between Lozelle and Union Street. Harry, you coming up?
Free Street?
Oh, free, Lozelle
All
Union
right,
to free.
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, good evening, Chairman Lauder and members of the board.
For the record, I'm John Walsh, Vice President of Operations for Aquarion, and I'm here this evening to request a grant of location for a new water main on parts of Lozelle and Free Streets. This is the third phase of a project that was started in 2012 to address water main breaks that occurred in the 5 years prior to 2011. The new main will replace an existing water main that was installed in the 1960s. Water mains generally last more than 50 years. However, the existing main on that part of Lozelle and Free Streets is constructed of asbestos cement material, and sections of it are located in corrosive soils, and that type of material does not withstand corrosive soils well. In total, we plan to replace about 2,200 feet of new, or install 2,200 feet of new 8-inch diameter ductile iron water main. The new main will be installed starting at the intersection of Lozelle and Union Street, what people probably think of as the entrance to the State Park. We're going to head south from there on Lozelle onto Free Street and end just south of the back entrance to the Meadows. We plan to start construction or pre-construction activities next week. The main installation will be finished by mid-July, and paving will be finished by the end of July. We have worked with Harry from the DPW in terms of the schedule and the paving. With respect to the schedule, the town plans to do paving on Union Street, and we need to get our water main in before he plans to do the paving. We've also been in touch with the fire department to discuss the location of hydrants, if we're going to be adding any hydrants.
And I see you're adding a new one. Is this a new one or a replacement one?
There's 4 hydrants shown on the drawing. One of them is replacing an existing hydrant. There's one just across the street from Hornstra's, and we're replacing that one. We show 3 additional ones. It will be up to the fire department whether or not they want those 3 additional hydrants.
Paul Healy, I'll start with you.
Harry, what's the existing subbase?
It's basically gravel, but there's some unsuitables mixed in. Any insuitable material will be removed and replaced with gravel, stone size no greater than 3 inches. If there's a question about the soil, the contractor's instructed to contact me to view the material and make a decision on the site.
Well, in terms of the gravel that's there now, any sense as to how deep it goes? I'm looking at the plan on C3, just curious.
It varies dramatically, especially the closer you get to Union Street. There's, some layers of unsuitable material in there, and I'm sure the contractor's not going to separate as he goes through, so anything that's unsuitable material in it will be contaminated throughout unless they separate it, and therefore new material will be brought in. I think within the first couple of days, we'll decide whether he'll just remove it, replace it, and or whether he's going to be able to save some. I mean, Free Street historically has had pretty good material all the way down, but that remains to be seen. There hasn't been a lot of excavations there other than the water breaks, in the last 10 or 12 years.
How wide's the trench going to be in the roadway?
Shouldn't be more than 3 to 3.5 feet.
And there's going to be plates?
As needed. It depends on the contractor and what, if he has to leave a, area open, probably where the connection is going to be with it. You may have to put a plate on it, but we haven't discussed that yet. Any plates left on the road would be done just in 24-hour increments. No plates will be allowed to be on the road throughout the weekend.
Will the roadway be open throughout the entire project?
It should be. I expect it to be.
Okay.
Just a couple of quick questions. I don't know who might be able to answer, but I understand the third phase of the project. Do we have any issues that came up in the other 2, or were they pretty smooth?
No, the first phase was just a New water main wasn't replacing anything. It was just a loop from Trip Hammer north toward the high school right before the covered bridge. So there were no problems with that section of project. The second phase was last spring. It was what I think most people think is the entrance, the driveway into the Wampatuck State Park. That's part of Union Street, about 800 feet of water main, and we did hit a lot of rock there. So that was the only real problem we had last year. We don't expect to hit nearly as much rock on Lozelle and Free Streets.
A question, you said there are corrosive soils. Can you explain what that is that might have aggravated the degradation of the piping?
Sure. In this area, on that section of Union Street I was just describing, there's high groundwater, and the high groundwater will make it more corrosive. Further on down on Free Street, there's an area of relatively high groundwater, and it causes the same problem. It just gets the pipe wet and then dries it out, and that cycling process will deteriorate the pipe over time.
Oh, Ted, do you have any questions?
No.
Do we have any questions from the public? Lizzie? Yes, you do. How quickly you forget.
I know. Lizzie Eldridge, 154 Union. Will the cleanup after this whole process be a little better than it was last time? The mess that was left on Union Street, these, I don't know what you call them, black canvas things that were left all over the road, and things were really quite a mess. And for such a scenic road and people biking there a lot and running, it was really pretty awful. And I'm wondering if we're going to have a better cleanup next time.
Yeah, what happened last time, the silt, the erosion control is what's called a silt sock. It's a biodegradable fabric formed into a sock with mulch material inside of it. And that material, some of it was left, it was placed along the side of the sidewalk. So between the sidewalk and the woods, some of that material was left in the woods. And we did, that was left there to degrade, but it would have taken a while for it to degrade, so we ended up, we did clean it up.
Do we have anything else? Paul or Paul? Nothing?
How old's the existing pipe that's being replaced, Harry?
It was installed in the 1960s.
Really?
Well, so it's had a pretty good life, really.
For water mains, a relatively short life. But it's just it was a type of pipe material in the 60s that was relatively inexpensive, so.
Does it go up to Main Street?
No, we're replacing all of the section that's of this material, asbestos cement.
So this will be it?
This will be it, yeah.
John, you've said this a couple times now, and you and I have talked about this. I remember a year ago, I got a call from somebody worried about asbestos in their pipes. Can you just clarify for the public that this is not the asbestos that we need to be worried about for health purposes? Maybe give us a little explanation. Because I'll get a few calls tomorrow about asbestos pipes.
Yeah, sorry.
So.
Ted asked me to call it AC pipe, but should I divulge that? The water is not in contact with the asbestos content. It's a cement lining on the inside of the pipe that the water's in contact with.
And it poses no threat to the public health. I did check it with Bruce Capman. This is about a year and a half ago we had this issue, so, okay. Thank you.
Paul?
I make a motion that we approve the request of Aquarian to install approximately 2,200 linear feet of new 8-inch ductile iron water main in Lozelle Street and Free Street. This main will originate at the intersection Lozelle Street and Union Street and proceed in Lozelle Street to Free Street. It will then continue in a westerly direction under the paved surface of Free Street to completion adjacent to the culvert at Ware River. This new water main will replace an existing 8-inch asbestos cement water main. This approval is subject to the stipulation of the Department of Public Works, including letter dated April 24th, 2014.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
one down. Is that the only one for Aquarian tonight?
Yes.
All right.
Good night.
Nice seeing you.
Dennis,
You're on.
you're here for a while. We will do this is Free Street. A good chunk of Free Street.
Free Street, sure. My name is Dennis Regan, and I'm the permit representative from National Grid. And tonight, National Grid respectfully request your consent to install and maintain approximately 1,745 feet, more or less, of 2-inch gas main in Free Street, Hingham. From the existing 2-inch gas main at house number 9 easterly to house number 85, and approximately 655 feet, more or less, of 2-inch gas main in South Bradford Road from the proposed 2-inch gas main in Free Street northerly to the end of the gas main, all of which to replace and abandon the existing 2-inch gas mains in Free Street and South Bradford Road.
Paul, do you want to
What's the
start?
cover? What's the cover on the gas main? In the
3
roadway?
feet.
Is any portion of the trench being excavated for the water main able to be used in connection with this, or is it entirely separate?
I imagine with Mr. Sylvester involved, the restoration is going to be somehow combined.
Unfortunately, the gas main is going to be installed westerly of the culvert, and the water main is east of the culvert. So the entire road will be disrupted, half by the gas and half by the water. They don't coincide with each other at all in the project.
When was the roadway last paved?
I think it was like somewhere around 1992, 93, somewhere around there.
Are there any other utilities that are envisioned to be upgraded, replaced, repaired?
I don't believe this, you know, we're going to be hit it pretty good right now with these two utility upgrades. The water main did go down there, if you recall, when they brought the, when they piped it from down Main Street, I think from the plant on South Pleasant Street. It came all the way down Main Street and then went up to the wells on Free Street. So that piece has already been replaced.
It looks like from the plan that, unless I'm mistaken, but the red is the scope of work, the red line within the roadway?
Red line, yeah, that's where we're going to and from. The pipe that's in there that we're taking out is bare steel.
Okay. So you won't be in Main Street at all?
No. Nope.
And in terms of the dimension of the trench,
It's a 15-inch wide trench, about 3 feet deep. And where the main connections are made, there's a hole approximately 5 by 4.
Will you be doing the work the same time the water company is doing the work?
All of that will be decided by Mr. Sylvester at the pre-construction conference.
Harry, you have any thoughts?
I don't believe it will be done at the same time. You know, I haven't discussed any of this with a contractor or the National Grid supervisor yet, but we'll probably put that on hold. That whole stretch of road from Free Street down Union Street out to Pleasant Street is going to be under construction most of the summer. At least 2 projects going on the water, and is going to be probably continuing where we'll be grinding Union Street up for reconstruction, and then the gas company will probably be there before we finish. It's a large project that we have undergoing, and these 2 projects, you know, are pretty substantial themselves.
Harry, we don't have any timeline at all, then for the folks at home might know that he's saying it's not going to start until the fall, or?
I would think probably sometime the end of July or early August. I'd like to see the water company complete their project. It's anticipated that their project may go as long as 6 weeks, and then would look to see when the gas company go in there. However, the gas company is still continuing work on Fort Hill Street, as we all know. We're trying to accelerate that schedule along so we can get that paved before the 1st of July. And they have several other grant locations of approvals that they haven't begun work on yet. So we'll take a look down and find the best course of action, the best scheduling for all these projects, but we haven't done that as yet.
Just one other question. I know you said maybe the end of July. So how long is the project going to last, do we anticipate?
Well, the gas project, I think, I don't want to speak for Dennis, but I think this is going to be probably another 6-week project, putting this gas line in if there's no issues with it. And 6 weeks with the water company, so I think these two projects will probably cover most of the summer. And then I know our project, when we start reconstructing Union Street, which we discussed today, will probably start sometime around July 7th, the first Monday after the 4th. And that's going to be a lengthy project with some minor upgrades in drainage, some reset of curbing, some replacement of sidewalk, some overlay of sidewalk.
Catch basins?
Probably at the bend of the parking lot as well, to put a couple of catch basins in there. We've done some survey work, and that looks like it's going to be needed.
Is that going to be done after most of the youth sports are finished, or is that going to be at the height of the season of the youth sports?
I don't know about the youth sports scheduling during the summertime, but it's a project that couldn't be undertaken during school, while school is in session. I believe that's out the 20th, and we couldn't start any sooner than that. It's going to take 8 days to grind it and grade it, and you get prepared for mix, and that would run us into the 4th of July where the parade sets up, so we've delayed that till July 7th starting date, and we anticipate, being out there a good part of the summer with all the work we have to do.
What about the state park traffic?
We'll do the best we can to detour them around, and if times during work we're only taking up one lane, we'll probably direct traffic through the construction site.
But via details, as opposed to detours to Lozelle or?
Well, there'll be times that we'll want to detour the traffic, except for residential traffic. Residents and school buses and schools won't be in session, will always be allowed to go through, but anyone doing business at the high school will have to follow a detour route, because we'll be grinding that road right up, and that's kind of difficult to navigate through and prepare it for, steady traffic.
It's going to be an interesting summer.
You had the look on my face when we were discussing this project, trying to get traffic around Fall.
Well, I'm just, the volume of the state park, I'm trying to figure out how you're going to actually work this so that.
Well, fortunately, most signs direct the traffic down Free Street into the state park that way, and that's where most of the traffic for the state park is encountered.
Right.
So I don't anticipate the state traffic to be, it's not a real, confusing detour to go down 228 and then back up Free Street, so I don't anticipate a lot of problems regarding that. Some of the work, when we put the final service on Free Street, Union Street, may be done in overnight hours, as the final surface of Martin's Lane and Fort Hill Street probably will be done at those hours also, so some of the work we'll be able to get accomplished without a lot of traffic.
Sounds good.
If all goes well, right? Any other questions? I'll open it to the public. Anyone have any questions? John?
John Ferris, 36 French Street. Harry, I was just wondering, will people have access to the school fields? I mean, even if they cut through the high school?
Yeah.
In the back?
And I think
To
most,
get on the other side
I don't
of
know what
Union
time the
Street?
activities are, but I mean, we don't anticipate going over, unless we're paving the road, to go beyond, 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but they'll always have access to fields. I'm not sure about that other parking lot, but that'll only be restricted for probably a couple of days at a time while we're passing that area.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe when you have the conference, it might be good to have John there or someone representing the schools, just for dates and things.
Well, we'll be passing out notices. When we do our work, everyone will be notified. It'll be on the website. I may have a message board up on Union Street. If Fort Hill Street goes well, we'll move it to another position. But we do the best to contact everyone, and we're always there to answer phones.
Okay.
This will be a really good trial this year of our new social media venture, because one of the first areas they're going to be working with is the highway folks to put out daily updates on social media so that people can hear it. I know you'll be taking care of that, right, Harry?
Right on top of it, right on top.
No, we have another group of people to help them out with it.
I spent time at the bear pit, remember, so,
I want to know where this bear pit is. We're going to have to go, field trip. Any other questions from the audience? And Paul, a motion?
I'll move to approve the request of National Grid to install and maintain approximately 1,745 feet of 2-inch gas main in Free Street. This gas main will originate from house number 9 and continue under the paved surface of Free Street for the entire length to completion at house number 85. This gas main will replace an existing 2-inch bare steel decayed main that is approximately 60 to 80 years old. This approval is subject to the stipulation of the Department of Public Works, including letter dated April 1st, 2014.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next one?
Next one is Main Street. And National Grid respectfully requests your consent to install and maintain 225 feet more or less of 2-inch gas main in Main Street, Hingham, from the existing 2-inch gas main at Hobart Street northerly to house number 455, all of which to replace and abandon the existing 2-inch gas main in Main Street.
Do you want to take a little time to explain this part of Main Street? Because when I first saw this, I kind of jumped out of my skin for the Main Street.
Well, what we're doing is replacing a very old bare steel gas main, and that's the last piece of bare steel pipe in the general area. So that's why we're trying to get rid of it.
I think what the chairman is getting to, Harry, maybe you could walk us through a little bit about how this sets up on Main Street, and maybe not necessarily what we'd all consider part of Main Street, but it
And
is.
that's what
Behind Jack.
if Harry would explain.
Yeah, this section of Main Street is to the rear, or the Hobart Street, Hershey Street side of Jackass Park. It is an aged main, it should be replaced. However, I don't want to bring up, any sore subjects, but before 228 was undertaken, the moratorium unfortunately was over in the year 2006, I believe. If you look at a blue line, the map you have in front of you, if you have eyes good enough, you'll see 1919, 1913. That's bare steel gas pipe. It runs off and on all the way through Main Street up to Queen Anne's Corner. So I think this won't be the last time we'll hear of main replacement on
Look over there.
by National Grid in the near future. So, I mean, and it goes easterly down through East Street, the same age main.
Yeah, wow was right.
We're going to have some touchy issues regarding gas main replacement on Main Street in the near future, but this piece we're speaking about tonight is taking place at the rear of Jackass Park and won't be into the main travelway. It shouldn't interrupt traffic, and the nice road surface shouldn't be disturbed as of yet.
What time frame are you looking to do this one?
Again, without the grant, we haven't really discussed any time frame for any gas main replacement. This is a small piece of gas main. I wouldn't expect more than a week to get this in and out. I
Sorry,
mean,
Paul.
if any of these gas mains are leaking, at a rapid clip, the gas company would generally dictate to me when they could, when they would replace it if it's a real safety hazard. So that'd be one of the things we'd cover.
Paul, any questions?
You said it would take a week, but are we able to do this, in your opinion, over the summer, or are we looking into the fall? Or?
Again, I think it would be undertaken sometime this summer, but we do have quite a few gas main requests that have already been approved that they really haven't started on too many of them. And many of these requests are in connection with people who are looking for new gas services. They're gas main extensions, not gas main replacements. And I think the residents who are looking for these gas services are probably nervous about getting that gas hooked up. So, between what the gas company requires a priority and what we're going to be looking at as a priority, they'll also weigh in as a factor on when these gas mains get replaced. Of course, we're not going to allow them to replace any gas main that's going to interfere with any of our road work while our road work's going on. So that's one consideration we'll be looking at.
That's it? Any questions from the audience?
Hi, I'm Greg Dolabani, 455 Main. Just, you'd mentioned you weren't sure about the time frame. Is it going to be like late summer, early fall?
I really couldn't answer that question right now, honestly. Like I say, I haven't spoken to the supervisor that scheduled this work, and he would consult with me when, we felt the best time to, undertake this project would be. If you have any special times during the summer that you like that put in, that could be considered.
Okay. Are they going to start from the Hobart end or start, because I'm right, it's going to end right in front of my house. I just wasn't sure if they're
Yeah.
going to start here or if they're going to start down at Hobart. If it's going to take a week's time, that's fine. Are they going to lay temporary pipe down that I have to be aware of?
No, I think the week's time is going to mean from the time they put a first shovel in the ground till they finish paving it. Laying the pipe itself, I would expect no more than 2.5 days to put the pipe itself in the ground. Then they'll have to rehook the service lines. I think there's only 2 or 3 in that area that they brought to rehook up. So all said and done, between the service lines, the gas main, the patching, I'm thinking a week. When they start doing the work, they'll notify every abutter on that street when they're going to be doing the work and when they may encounter your driveway or interrupt you from going in and out of your house.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. And I have to say, I learned something with this, too. I did not know that stretch of road was Main Street. I don't think I'm the only one that didn't.
Well, a lot of people don't know it's Jackass Park yet, so.
Okay, whose turn is it? Paul?
I'll make a motion that we approve the request of National Grid to install and maintain approximately 225 feet of 2-inch gas main in Main Street. This gas main will originate from the Hobart Street intersection and continue under the paved surface of Main Street for the entire length of the completion at house number 455. This gas main will replace an existing 2-inch bare steel decayed main that is approximately 75 years old. This approval is subject to the stipulation of the Department of Public Works, including letter dated April 1, 2014.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okey-doke. Old Derby Street next.
Okay, National Grid respectfully requests your consent to install and maintain approximately 1,450 feet, more or less, of 4-inch gas main in Old Derby Street, Hingham. From the existing 4-inch gas main near house number 127 easterly to the proposed 4-inch gas main in Derby Street, which is a state road, all of which to replace and abandon the existing 4-inch gas main in Old Derby Street.
Is this going to disrupt New Derby Street any, the traffic? The real Derby Street? Harry, I guess you might know the answer to that best.
It probably will. From Whiting Street up to, say, the Derby Street shops, you'll notice there's 2 or 3 recent trenches. A couple don't ride very well. I think that's spurring the gas company to replace that gas main along with the discussions about the reconstruction of Derby Street. I think that information was conveyed to the gas company that was going to be happening probably in the next couple of years. So now if they've had some leaks there, a leak history, I think they've decided to replace that whole section of gas main.
Is that where the persistent smell of gas is?
I
Is
don't
it
work for the gas company, but
Derby
I believe that that's probably one of the
Good
main
answer,
causes.
Harry. That's so politically correct.
That's probably one of the main reasons, yeah, that's right there.
Dennis, do you know if that,
I don't.
because when you're at the light on Derby Street where Cushing comes in,
Well, they've had some extensive work done there, regarding leaks. I don't think they've really got the handle on, I mean, that's a tough place to work. You spent a lot of time there, they had plates on the road a number of days, and I think we felt it's time to replace it.
Paul G., any questions?
Again, if you could maybe, somebody just tell us, again, is there anything that's going to slow us down in terms of the time? Is there other projects that are going to slow you down? Are we looking at the fall, the end of summer?
Well, I think this project will be driven by, see, we don't have a say on the Derby Street section of the gas main that's going to be replaced. We're just here for the old Derby Street Granta location. So it'll probably be driven by from MassDOT on when the work can be done on Derby Street, and they would incorporate that same work schedule on Old Derby Street, which most of Old Derby Street that's going to be disturbed, if I recall correctly, is going to be on the Derby Street shop sides, up by the entrance that goes from Best Chevy to the Derby Street shops. That's where the Old Derby Street location, I believe, is.
Paul?
Dennis, thank you. Quick question. On drawing 3, directing your attention to Old Derby and Derby, there's a red box. Red dots. Can you tell me what that is?
Ooh.
What are we looking at now?
The anti-corrosion device that's in the ground?
Yeah, that's, what do they call them? I can't think of it. They're,
It's for anti-corrosion.
yeah, it's anti-corrosion, what it is, and it slows the corrosion down of the steel pipes. And it's not nearly as big as that. They're little 5-pound bags of look like a bag of cement. And they have metal that they hook up to the steel, and it draws away so the main doesn't corrode as fast as it would without them.
So that's part of the project.
I think that's existing.
Yeah.
I think the new coated steel will probably not be required of one of these, but I'm not sure.
Just never seen that. Okay.
Yeah, they'll bring that up there, they'll put them right beside the main in the trench, and they run the wires up.
Okay.
Into a small shut-off, looks like a gas shut-off box, and periodically go and test. We could find out how much corrosion's going on, and that's why they put those test stations in.
Thank you.
Okay. Paul, any more questions? I think we're going to have a very busy season. Any questions from the audience? Mark?
I'm Mark Pluff. I live at 225 Old Derby Street, which is on the forgotten side of Old Derby Street. Do they have any intentions of replacing the lines over there? So you basically go the end of Old Derby Street, cross the highway. And I know they haven't done anything down that end of town for years.
I don't even, we don't show that. Actually, the piece I'm looking at, I don't even see that there's no main in the piece we have here.
Mark, when this project was presented to me, one of the things I asked the developer who's putting in the car dealership at Old Derby Street, if they were notified about this gas main being replaced, and if they were going to use gas, to find out if the gas company would want to increase the size of this gas main on Derby Street to feed this property on Old Derby. I never heard any, comments back regarding that, inquisition. So I don't believe there's any plans to upgrade or bring gas, and I'm not sure if there's even gas on that.
No, there's gas here. From what I understand, when the gas, 10 years ago, when the gas guys were sniffing the roads, that the gas line actually runs from Old Derby under the Route 3 to my side of the town.
It very well could be. I'd have to do some research to find that out, but...
it seems like any projects that we have in the town, that section of Hingham always seems to be getting forgot that we exist.
Well, I can't say that's true, but, a lot of people feel the same way until we show up, but that gas man, I'd have to do some research on it. I don't really believe we have a long leak history in that end of the town, on that section of road. And the questions were asked, but there was really no feedback regarding that.
Could you ask again? And
I could do
maybe
some
ask
research of
the
my own. I could
residents?
ask the supervisors about the condition of that gas main.
Because it would make
I don't
sense
believe-
seeing you're down there.
Well, we just looked at Main Street, gas pipes 101 years old in a section of that road. I'm sure the gas main, if it went under Route 3, they did it when they put Route 3 in, was back in the late 50s, early 60s. So that gas main's probably, only 50 or 60 years old, which really isn't considered old in most cases, unless it's probably in some corrosive soils.
Thank you.
But maybe could you follow up, Harry?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
no question.
And then get back to Mark?
Well,
That would be
yeah,
good. No question? Any other questions from the audience? No more, Paul?
No, I'm set.
Okay. Mr. Gannon?
I will move to approve the request of National Grid to install and maintain approximately 1,450 feet of 4-inch gas main in Old Derby Street. This gas main will originate from the Derby Street intersection south side and continue under the paved surface of Old Derby Street the entire length to completion at house number 127. This gas main will replace an existing 4-inch coated steel decayed main that's approximately 60 years old. This approval is subject to the stipulation of the Department of Public Works, including letter dated April 30, 2014.
Second that?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again, Dennis.
Be back pretty soon.
So I was going to say, somehow I think we'll see you real soon.
Thanks, Dennis. See you later.
Okay, the Ship and Cottage.
And we have Michael Salerno, Chairman of the Sewer Commission, and Mr. Peterson from the engineering firm. Turn it over to you guys.
Thank you. Is that good? Can you hear me?
Okay.
So good evening. My name is Steve Peterson. I'm with Wesson and Sampson Engineers. And we're here on behalf of the Sewer Commission, and Michael Salerno, Chairman of the Sewer Commission, is here also in regards to the sewer extension project on Ship and Cottage Street. We were before this board back in the middle of April for a grant of location within Ship and Cottage Street to provide the sewer extension. And what we're here tonight actually is for a modification to the grant of location to allow a connection to a manhole in the intersection of North Street and Cottage Street as part of the project to allow a gravity-fed system for a portion of Cottage Street from Ship Street down to North Street. So that's the real modification is for permission to access that manhole within the limits of North Street to do an excavation in there.
Do you want to explain to us how the modification was made? Because we are actually going back to the original plan, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Can you explain in layman's terms?
Sure. The original plan was to connect to the gravity manhole that's in the intersection of North Street and Cottage Street. There's also a connection on the intersection of North Street and Ship Street. The manhole at North and Ship Street has a stub that actually extends up into Ship Street. The manhole at the intersection of North and Cottage does not have a stub. It only extends 5 feet out of the manhole. So we can't access that stub without excavating in North Street. So with the moratorium in North Street, we looked at a revised design to not have to excavate in North Street. The revised design required pumping to take the homes at that end of Cottage Street closer to North Street and pump back up to the system on the other side of Cottage Street and tie in on Fearing Road. So we made that modification with the understanding that that we could not access in North Street. So what we are currently asking is that we be allowed to go back to the original design and connect in North Street.
So if I can add, Mr. Chairman, the reason, they worked on the concept that we're not going to allow a cut on North Street because it's under the moratorium without really focusing on the idea that Cottage is a full reconstruction. So Roger Fernandez looked at this, and I think maybe Harry could add to this here on Roger's behalf, is that because it's a full reconstruction of Cottage, the intersection work at North Street will be seamless, and when they're done, you won't know they were there. It won't be a patch, because it'll be going down to full grade. Is that, Harry, you want to maybe do a little better job than I did explaining the construction side of things?
The moratorium will expire next year. Street cuts will be allowed under normal circumstances in the year 2016. That being said, while we're reconstructing Cottage Street, we could repair the trench if it's approved and abide by our guidelines. We could repair it with the street paver while it's there with the regular asphalt mix that we'll be using on Cottage Street as we reconstruct Cottage Street. Additionally, we'd make them mill out the full width of the paver, put an adhesive-backed fabric over the trench joints to ensure that there would be no wide cracking from, the difference between the two mixes, any difference in gravel, probably a flowable fill material backfilled into that trench. So it would be above and beyond a normal trench request, even under, say, a special request, if some of the ones we brought forth before the Board of Selectmen for that happened to be denied. And if it was open in 2 years to put the gravity in, it would be done with a hand patch, pretty much, because it's not going to be a real wide trench. And that trench would be nowhere near, it would be substandard to what we can do at this point in time. So the road will never be back to where it is now without a cut, but it will be the best we possibly could get done if it is cut. I hope I didn't confuse things more,
Yeah.
but
How deep are these trenches going to be?
I think the engineer should answer that question.
Yeah, so the trenches through North Street will be about 6 feet deep for the sewer. At the manhole itself, the stub is down about 9 feet. So they have to go 9 feet at the manhole, and then we'll be picking it up to about 6 feet and coming across to get out into Cottage Street. And Cottage Street comes up pretty quickly in that area.
My understanding is that the residents are happy that you've gone back to the original plan.
That is my understanding of it.
Okay.
When we, Michael Salerno, 59 Cross Street, on behalf of the Sewer Commission, when we first notified the residents of a potential change, a group of them did come to us and request that we look into a way of revising it back to the original, and that's what brings us here tonight.
Paul?
I just am confirming what I'm hearing, and that's the design that you're proposing that we approve now is the superior design and is more likely to be enduring as opposed to the other alternative that you initially considered but have since discarded, correct?
That is correct. This is the preferred alternative.
Halsey?
I think you asked and the question was answered. I was more concerned about some of the neighbors.
I'll open it up to the public. Tom?
Tom Patch, Ship Street. I'm one of the neighbors, I guess, but I don't live on Cottage Street. I'm going to make a statement. So here I find myself before the Board of Selectmen again on the issue of the Ship Street, Cottage Street sewer proposed project to yet again point out the unlawfulness of a proposal born by misrepresentation, lies, and avarice, which in what is a telling characterization of just about how far the ethos of Hingham has been degraded, has become the norm. Given the forcing a square peg through a round hole, damn the legality, expense, and transparency to the taxpayer and affected others has become the guide star of the executive branch and certain other elected and appointed bodies of the town of Hingham town government, it is fair to characterize my efforts to get them to come to their senses as akin to the definition of insanity attributed to Albert Einstein, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. However, given that the mantra is to metaphorically drive the bus carrying the townspeople over the cliff before acknowledging mistakes, let alone wrongfulness, I can state I am again speaking out not because I expect the result to change, but so to make a clear record by which the residents of the town can recognize precisely whom to hold accountable when the chickens come home to roost. And to be able to represent to a judge in what appears to be the inevitable litigation that I tried to rectify the situation short of instituting litigation. So this matter is back before the board, despite former Rebufo's declaratory statement offered at 14 minutes and 55 seconds into the April 17th Selectmen's meeting in justification of approving the prior road opening permit request that we have, quote, we have reviewed this extensively and quote, one last piece of the action was not opening North Street. We took care of that with this design approach. Earlier at 8 minutes and 29 seconds of the meeting, Ms. Lauder specifically asked Mr. Peterson, the same Mr. Peterson here tonight, the Sewer Commission's engineer from Weston and Sampson, are you cutting into North Street at all? Mr. Peterson's response, no. But that was not true. In fact, the paved surface of North Street has been cut into on the Ship Street side. According to Mr. Peterson, during the April 17th meeting, a sewer line stub had previously been left in Ship Street excuse me, during the recent reconstruction of North Street, which raises another issue, how that could have lawfully occurred given the necessary approvals and permits were never issued to install that stub. Now that the fact that we have a cut into North Street was that just is a few feet on the Ship Street side isn't a defense, let alone justification. As Ms. Lauder would recall, she was part of the majority vote by the board on September 20th, 2012, where the Selectmen denied a grant of a road opening permit to Brewer Beach Road residents Brian and Sarah Hurley's request to allow a street opening of just 19 inches on nearby Kimball Beach Road, which was then under a 5-year moratorium because it was recently paved. And they offered to do whatever it took to put that thing back into condition, whatever the town wanted, but it was denied. On April 17th, Ms. Lauder asked Mr. Peterson a direct question. The most significant part was the words, "at all." As far as I'm concerned, I think a reasonable person would conclude the answer of no to that question was a lie. I next point to the supposed reason for the requested so-called amendment this evening. The original design for this project generated in 2012 included a connection with gravity-based sewer line on the easterly side of Cottage Street down to the sewer manhole in North Street. That manhole is located at a point more than 20 feet distance from the edge of the street line layout of Cottage Street. Design would require opening up North Street. This also explains why there was the original advertisements for the road opening permit based on that design run in the Hingham Journal back in March in 2014, and then the hearing inexplicably canceled, only to be replaced by another advertisement for the April 17th, 2014 hearing, which was based on a new design that eliminated the gravity connection with the North Street sewer manhole and replaced it with a pressurized line to Faring Road. And according to the Sewer Commission's minutes of their meeting in April, the engineer stated that there would be a approximately $10,000 savings on the project if the pressurized line was put in. Now I realize the telling importance of former Selectman Rubufo's statement at the April 17th meeting that the last piece of the action not opening North Street, we took care of that with this design approach. It is clear that those pushing this project realize that while they may be able to hide the fact of cutting to North Street from the Ship Street gravity sewer line could be hidden because the average person would not know where the actual intersection line of Ship and North Street was. On the ground, the location of the sewer manhole in North Street designed to receive the gravity line from Cottage Street would be manifest to the average person that North Street was being cut into. What this tells me is the redesign referenced by former Selectman Rubufo on the 17th of April was yet another exemplar of the backroom, non-transparent nature of this entire proposed project. Further to this point is Mr. Alexiadis' statement at the May 6, 2014 meeting of the Sewer Commission where he stated that he had spoken to two of the selectmen, and they were, quote, open to this. Given that a road opening permit hearing by the selectmen is required to be held upon a filed petition, there's no need to speak to the selectmen in advance about whether or not they would hold a hearing. It can be reasonably concluded this was a deliberation as defined by the open meeting law and the judicial interpretation of that law, and thus a violation of the open meeting law. Returning to the merits of the request of the permit, if the precedent of the decision made on the 2012 Hurley request is to be honored, then the decision by the board tonight should be simple: denial of the permit application. There is nothing that distinguishes the circumstances of the Hurleys from this circumstance, unless given that this project has been at the behest of the well-to-do connected few makes the difference in the situation from that of the Hurleys. The result of the denial should be that the property owners of the east section of Cottage Street not wanting pressurized pumps is to halt the project and wait until the moratorium expires in about 1 year. Ditto, given the already unauthorized cut into North Street for purposes of serving the gravity feed from Ship Street. I want to point out two last things. First, I noticed in the hearing notice tonight, as was the prior hearing notice, this is about for those who wish to hook into sewer. This has been the biggest misrepresentation that I find that has been going on. Here's a certified copy of the 1955 town report. Article 64 of town meeting, unanimous vote, was to accept section 15 of chapter 82 of the Acts of 1946, which the town voted that you have to connect to the sewer within a reasonable time, such time to be determined by the Sewer Commission, unless upon petition of the property owner, the Board of Health finds that non-connection of such building with the common sewer does not in reasonable likelihood endanger the public health. There was a letter that went out from an engineer from Weston Sampson at the end of March to affected property owners asserting that you don't have to hook up. Yes, you do, unless you petition the Board of Health, and the Board of Health allows you to petition. This is something I've been saying since the beginning. Mr. Salerno from the Sewer Commission chooses to state it as the Sewer Commission's not going to require you to hook up. Well, maybe that's a distinction without a difference. They're the ones behind the project. If the project wasn't going forward, you wouldn't have sewer in the street. You didn't have sewer in the street, you wouldn't have to connect to it. So the bottom line is you do, and I believe that this has been a misrepresentation to the property owners because several of them were on the fence about this project if they in fact had to hook up. And they were under the belief that they weren't going to have to hook up, but in fact they have to hook up unless the Board of Health, they petition the Board of Health, and the Board of Health allows them to not hook up as a result of finding the standard. The final thing I want to point out, and I'll give this to the
Well,
to the
Mr.
board.
Patch, I was going to ask, if you have your statement.
I just have one last thing to say.
Okay, and then you could give, if your statement's all typed, you can give it to Sharon.
Yeah, well, and I said, and basically, finally, without limitation, I note that there's been no showing that the requirements of general laws, Chapter 83, Section 8, have been met, so you're legally prohibited from approving this permit request.
I just have two questions for the engineers, and Harry and the engineers. Is this the technically best solution?
For the connection to the sewer?
Yes.
I defer that to the sewer and the...
Okay.
Yes.
And then, Mike, do you want to respond to about the hooking up piece?
Sure. So in the spirit of working together and what we've been really moving to in this building, we will work directly with the Board of Health on this and help the residents. Should they not choose to tie in at this time, we will walk them right through the process and assist them throughout the process.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, her first, and then Mr. Barkley.
I'm Jane Hennessy, 48 Cottage Street. Just for the record, all the neighbors aren't happy. So I did not want it to go through because I didn't want to be assessed $20,000 after I had replaced my septic a few years prior. We haven't discussed the cost of this change, so I'm interested in hearing if there's additional expenses.
The additional expenses are approximately $2,000 to the entire project on this.
Okay. And it's interesting that you brought up the question because we were told at the beginning we didn't have to hook up. Then we got a letter from the engineers, we did have to. Then we got a letter that said that was a mistake, we don't have to. So the last letter I got was that we don't have to, and now today you're saying we don't have to if you help us. What?
So there is a process, and it is done through the Board of Health. It's not done through the Sewer Commission. And if you choose not to hook up, we will certainly assist you right through that process.
Are you saying if I complete the process, I don't have to hook up? Or are you saying you'll help me through a process where someone can decide if I have to hook up?
Yes. The Sewer Commission does not have the ability to make that determination. The Board of Health will. What Mr. Salerno is saying is that we're not going to just simply say to the residents in that area, you're on your own, figure it out with the Board of Health. We'll walk you through the permitting and the application process, but ultimately the Board of Health has jurisdiction over this. And I think the crux of it will determine, what are your septic capabilities? And if you have replaced your septic system and it is functioning and it's not a health hazard, then those are the times the Board of Health has granted waivers, but it is up to the Board of Health.
Did I miss something in this whole process, or was this ever divulged before that you have to hook up unless you do this filing? I don't want to accuse anybody of this is the first time I've heard it, but this is the first time I've heard it, and I was against the project and came here however many months ago to talk about that because I had recently spent $25,000 to replace my septic. And then 6 months later was voted another $20,000 that I was against. And
So
all along was told, don't worry about it, you don't have to hook up. So this is a different message. And the people that are against it are not aware of that as well.
Yeah, there
Or
was
the grinder pump issue, which I don't understand. either.
So there's the grinder pump issue for that area has been taken off the table. We did go back.
Some people.
Yeah, for that specific section was taken off the table, and we went back to the gravity feed for here. So, no, I think you're right, and I do think there was an oversight, and as chairman of the Sewer Commission, I will certainly take ownership of that. We did understand it as that we could make that determination upon further investigation. We did find out that it would be the Board of Health that would ultimately make that determination. And through speaking with other folks within the town, we agreed the best thing to do would be to, if there are any residents in a position like yourself that do not have a failing system, to actually assist you completely through that application process, and even go with you to the Board of Health hearings to let them know how we feel on that and speak on your behalf.
And could you just said the grinder pump is off?
For that section of Cottage, yes, it is. So we always had a section, and Steve can talk about the section that we did have grinder pumps in. That's always been part of the project. There was a change order brought about to the project before we came for the grant location. We, instead of going with gravity, we did decide to try to change it to grinder pumps. Ultimately, that area, a number of the residents did come forward to us and say they would prefer a gravity system, and so we are here now exploring that opportunity.
So is this North Street cut the gravity system?
Yes, it is.
It eliminates the grinder?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right.
Mike?
Good evening, Mike Barclay, 11 Cottage Street. So just like to address, first of all, some of the comments Mr. Patch made. This project has been voted on and approved by town meeting. It was voted on, it was approved, it came back, it was approved again. I represent the group of citizens on the east side of Cottage Street. The way we look at this is we're making an infrastructure investment in our town. This is a long-term investment in the town, and if you're going to do something like that, you want to do it the right way. And the reason it was originally designed to run from North Street is because, from an engineering perspective, that was the most effective way to run this system. As far as those of us on that side of the street, there are a number of reasons why having a gravity-fed system is better than a grinder pump system. There are just numerous reasons why, and from a long-term perspective, time passes and things change. Nobody has a crystal ball, and nobody can say things are always going to be done a certain way. The town, to its credit, thought a little creatively and came up with a solution to this, because they recognized that if they were going to undertake a project like this, that it should be done the right way. And I have a petition with 7 of the 9 properties have signed. I just didn't get a chance to get to the other 2. They're all in favor of this. They want this project to be done properly, and that's why we came to the Sewer Commission and made this request. So thank you for your time.
I have a question. Jane, I have a question. Because obviously I'm new on the board, but I am familiar with the issue, and I did do some, looking into the grinder versus gravity, and I was under the impression that was a positive. But you brought up an issue where you folks have already put out some money for.
Well, just on our septic.
If
I've heard negative things about the grinder, so if the gravity is better, I don't care if they cut into North Street. Please go ahead.
So the original group that was having the grinder is still going to have the grinder system, and the.
Now you're telling us we're going to have a grinder system. Now, what is a grinder?
It's going back to the original project, sir, which included that other half of Cottage Street.
Yes.
Yeah, I can. I'm going to have Steve speak to exactly.
Can you come up and,
Yeah. 48 Cottage Street, if you could help us out, because we're hearing, we're going to have grinder pumps, we're not going to have it.
Yes, sir, we can do that. We have,
Let's be specific.
Yeah, so the specific areas of the original design is a gravity-fed system from North Street coming up to the intersection of Ship Street, to the top of the hill at Ship Street and flowing down. And then there's a gravity-fed system on Ship Street, and then on the other side of Cottage, there's a gravity system from Fearing Road coming up a few hundred feet on that side to the top of the hill on the Fearing Road
Do
side.
you have a house number? I mean, where the,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, just the number 55.
it's going to, so it's gravity fed up to 55?
Yeah. So the homes on the lower part in the bottom of Cottage Street, basically between Ship Street and 55, are still on a grinder system. That is still a system.
Where you stop, since you're stopping at the house beside my house.
Depth, huh?
What decides when you...
The grade, the gravity has to flow downhill, so as the road starts going away, the sewer starts getting too deep.
So I do need a grinder pump.
If you were at number 43?
48.
48, yes. Yes, 48.
Okay,
is
that's
a grinder pump.
fine. We have no problem with it. My suggestion is the communication here is at best poor. So if we didn't come to this meeting tonight, we wouldn't have been notified. We haven't been notified that some are going to have grinders, some won't have grinders. We're going to have grinders. So may I suggest that we try to clean up the communication, make it a little bit more above board.
Yeah, I mean,
Clear it to us.
there was one letter.
That would be
I mean,
helpful to us.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
I certainly agree with that. That portion of the project has not changed from day one. That has continued to stay the same.
How are we to know?
That it's stayed the same?
We can do better communication.
Please.
So in the
Come to the
future...
meeting, there's confusion and it wasn't clear.
Okay.
Okay?
And
So if nothing's changed, that's fine, but then we're hearing rumors throughout the town that things are changing, which are our problem, not your problem. So I think the communication could be improved.
Sure.
Please, that's all.
Sure, yeah, and we'll make sure going forward that all communications come out from the Sewer Commission office and from the town as opposed to an engineering firm.
So if I just could follow that up, so are we still in a situation where they may be able to opt out? Is that through the process you've discussed?
Yes.
May I ask, has the Board of Health, let's look at precedent, have other people gone before them and said, I don't want to hook up, and the Board of Health says, okay? Is there any precedent?
I've spoken with Bruce Capman, the Executive Director of the Board of Health. He can't speak for the board himself, but he did say that, they look at the issues of what is the nature of your septic system, when was it installed, what is its life expectancy. My guess is if you installed the septic system a couple of years ago and it met all the regulations of the Board of Health, they would look favorably on it. That was the impression that I got in our conversation. If you installed the system 20, 30, 40 years ago and it's had issues, then I think that you might have a difficult time getting their approval to keep the system.
Michael, perhaps the Sewer Commission could send out a letter
Yes.
clearly showing, yeah, I see.
Yep.
Clearly showing each section and how they're going to be fed. It is a difficult concept unless you're an engineer or dealing with this on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely, we can get that communication out
But
to all
again, I'm
residents.
happy you're going back to the original, even if it means cutting into North Street.
Thank you.
Who had a question? I'm sorry. Terry?
Oh, I was just going to say that Terry Granian, 7 Cottage Street, that just to address the issue regarding whether you have to hook up or not, is that I believe if you pass Title V, like in my particular property, I bought my property a few years ago, it passed Title V, so, and my hill is all gravel, so I think that would be, I don't have a new system there, but it's passed Title V, so I think that's the determining factor, the Title V, so they can't, well, in any case, and then to address the cutting of North Street, as you can probably tell, I'm not going to hook up to the system, at least for the time being, because I have a brand-new driveway and landscaping and everything, so I wasn't planning on doing it, and I have a system that passed Title V. And I think, as I agree with Mike, that assuming that the system, the sewer, is going to be going in regardless, it's approved at town meeting, that we wanted the best system to go in without the grinder pipes, grinder pump. So I think that's the issue there. And we're happy to wait for the moratorium for North Street to end. I'm the last house in North Street. You could just eliminate me from the project and I'll wait and hook up. I'll dig the ditch and hook up to North Street when the moratorium, and so, I mean, so we're not trying to, push to open up North Street, but we wanted a better system put in for the whole neighborhood, and particularly us, so, anyways.
Thank you for correcting me on that one point. I'd like to make that for the record, that the age of the system is not necessarily the determining factor. It is the Title V applicability of the system.
So it's safe to say that we're going with the best solution for the long term and also the best engineering solution. There's options for people to go to the Board of Health and opt out until such time as you need a new system, or you choose to
Correct.
hook up yourself. And the Sewer Commission is going to send out a letter clarifying all of this to all of the people on Ship and Cottage.
Absolutely.
Did I get it?
You did?
Cool. We have any other comments? Mr. Patch?
I just want to, three things. I just want to give you the statement that I had.
Give it to Sharon.
Okay, I just wanted two things. First, just because town meeting has approved something doesn't mean it's legal, okay? I hear what Mr. Barkley's saying, but again, my position is the whole thing is, and I've been shown as being right on some of the issues that I have raised, and it's not every issue that involves this. But you know, I was shouted down at the first town meeting when you try to get a reconsideration, and then I was shown when I informed former Selectman Rebufo of some of the issues I saw. As I pointed out, the April 17th hearing, even Susan Murphy, special counsel, had to come back into the advisory committee and tell him I was right, which turned around and resulted in 2 warrant articles to undermine my position. And I'll repeat what I said then. I'm telling you right now, the town is exposed to pay the entire cost of this project. Okay, if it was done properly, the processes that were put in place by the town, if they had been followed, and I didn't like the result, I can live with it. I'm not going to be forced to pay for something that's illegal, and that's what this is. And if that means the town has to take the entire hit on that, well, that's the town's decision. Second thing is, you know, with all due respect, the special legislation that was accepted by town meeting in 1955 speaks for itself. This is the Board of Health's issue. It's not the town administrator's issue, and it's not the issue for the Sewer Commission to tell people on what basis they're going to get their petition, if they petition on a timely basis, it would be granted. Okay, the statute, the special legislation sets the standard. It's not the standard that you have to be compliant with Title V, because there are plenty of Title V compliant systems that endanger the public health. In fact, sewer is looked at between sewer and septic. Sewer is looked at as being for public health purposes. Sewer is looked at as being the preferred method for on-site waste, or for household waste disposal. And there's actually case law. There was a case out in Western Massachusetts where I don't have the name of the town off the top of my head. It's a recent case in the appeals court. The town built a sewer treatment plant. The Board of Health voted that everybody denied anybody's petition. You had to hook in, regardless of whether or not your system complied with Title V, and it was based on their position as to public health. The homeowners appealed, and the appeals court upheld the Board of Health. So, you know, people can talk round and round and round about this, but the special legislation is the default. You have to hook up.
Okay.
And I know Ms. Murphy says she wasn't hearing it, but I was, you know, I know people don't listen to me, but I've been trying to say this to people, and people, unfortunately, you know, tell people not to listen to me. So they, you know, I can understand why she probably didn't understand that.
Mr. Patch, people do listen to you, so thank you for your viewpoint.
Another question? Just if I could, I know you said that it's an engineering issue whether you can have gravity beyond, I think it was 55. Is it something that was doable but cost prohibitive, or was it just not workable?
I mean, there's a lot of factors that could be. Yeah, cost is a big driver, but, you know, once you get down to certain depths, it gets unsafe for constructability. You'll lose the whole road. You know, you can only go down so deep before you start, you know, the deeper you go, the wider your trench gets. So there are limitations on how far we want to be down in residential streets with a sewer.
And thank you for that. But I just, in this particular case, was that the reason, or was it more cost?
No, it's the depths. Oh, there's not a profile there. Yeah, no, I mean, Cottage Street drops down significantly between Ship and Fearing.
Okay. Oh, come on up. Come on up.
So if you opt not to install a hookup, is there then, do you have this issue of you can't dig up the road for like 5 years, so you couldn't, say you sell your property, could the new owner decide to do it, or is there some restriction?
There will be a stub left to your property outside of the limits of the road. Outside, you won't have to dig the road up again. So the stubs will be outside of the limits of the reconstructed road.
All right, thank you.
Okay, that's it. Mr. Healy?
I don't really have much to add, although I will say to Mr. Guiana's question that the grinder pump technology is not precedent-setting in this neighborhood. It exists in other neighborhoods on subdivisions that planning boards approved in the past.
Would you like to?
It's on hill.
And
It's called Baker.
water does not flow uphill.
Right.
The last time I checked.
Yeah, and just, well, my biggest concern is, I know there's been confusion, there's some good people here that have some serious concerns, and, you know, I wasn't at every meeting, but I was aware of the issue, but, you know, I mean, I'm just concerned that people are in kind of in betwixt and between here as to what they can do and whether they're going to be exposed to incurring additional costs. I'm just concerned about that.
Actually, I think we got quite a bit of information out tonight, some of which I'd not heard before either. So I thank everybody for that.
Ready for a motion?
Yep.
Sure. I'll move, get the specs on for this one. I'll move that we approve the request of the Hingham Sewer Commission to amend the grant of location for Ship Street and Cottage Street, which was approved on April 17, 2014. This amendment is to include the installation of 700 linear feet of 8-inch gravity sewer fronting 9 Cottage Street properties from the intersection of North Street, followed by 130 linear feet of 1.5-inch pressure sewer fronting 2 properties through the intersection with Ship Street. The purpose of this sewer main extension is to provide service to the homes that wish to connect on Ship Street and Cottage Street. This approval is subject to the stipulation of the Department of Public Works, including letter dated May 9, 2014.
For purposes of getting a vote, I would second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I'm going to vote present on this one.
Okay. Good. Present. Michael, perhaps we could ask you, I see Steve Dempsey from Sewer here, Harry, if there's anything else that comes about, because I think we did uncover new questions tonight, if you all would come back and perhaps continue the discussion, and if the residents find anything happening along the way, I would invite them back also, because we do have 5 minutes at the beginning of each of our meetings for things that are not on the agenda, so please take use of it. Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. 2 to 1, sorry. Totally changing the tenure now. Let's have our cable committee and HCAM representatives come up, and we'll talk budgets.
Let's see. Well, we need Katie. We really need Katie.
Sneak out here. Just tell me, honestly, she's over with the faucet.
Sandy, do you want to take us through this?
Yes, you have my memorandum, so I will try to be brief. What we are asked, well, we have 2 accounts. We have a capital account and an operating account. Both are funded by Verizon and Comcast, and both are limited in their purpose just to providing cable, public access cable television in Hingham, of which we have 3 stations, the education, which Katie runs.
Could you introduce yourselves? My social skills are really pretty crummy. I know them. I assume everybody knows them, but I apologize.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Katie Gallagher. I'm the librarian at the high school, and I run the educational channel. I do the programming.
Eric Dresser. I'm the executive director for Hingham Community Access and Media. We do the public and government programming for the town of Hingham.
And we have one other person in the audience. He can introduce himself.
Jim Dellett, president of the HCAM.
Okay, so you've now been introduced to the 3 channels and the people who are running them. And the Cable Advisory Committee, well, we do a lot of things, but one of the main things we do is we watch the money, the capital money, to make sure that it's paid on time by the cable providers, Comcast and Verizon. And then we consider the needs of both the educational channel and HCAM, and figure out what we want to recommend to the selectmen in terms of how the money should be spent and what it should be spent on. And that's why we're here today, is the committee has voted to recommend to the selectmen that $20,000 of the capital funds be provided to the schools for the education channel capital improvements this year, that $600 in operating costs be provided to the schools for things they need to buy of an operating nature, and that $36,000 be provided to HCAM for HCAM to use in purchasing a video server, which will serve all 3 of the channels. Since HCAM operates 2 of the channels and assists the school in operating the 3rd channel, HCAM is the logical recipient of the money to select and put in and operate this new video server, which is proposed to be located at Town Hall. And then there will be an additional amount of money for the 1/3 of the maintenance cost for the server, or 2/3, excuse me, to be provided by town, and HCAM will provide the remaining 1/3, which represents the public access share. Irma, I know, understands all this because she comes to our meetings sometimes, but the other selectmen may not understand exactly how this works, but a large amount of money was provided to HCAM at the time the selectmen established HCAM, and the selectmen established HCAM as a nonprofit or corporation to run initially the public channel. And I think it was $500,000 that was given to them for capital and initial operating costs. Then, not too long after that, the selectmen transferred the operation of the government channel, which is broadcasting this meeting and school committee meetings and other meetings in the town, over a separate government channel. But HCAM does all the work of seeing that that gets broadcast. The education channel has been operated by the high school since at least 1999, and maybe before that. Comcast, when it was still operating public access channels, provided equipment for the high school, but the high school and the school department have been actually operating the education channel since at least that long. However, the other duties that keep being assigned to the librarian and the increased programming that the committee wants to see on the educational channel have combined to make us come to the selectmen, which we did a while ago, to ask HCAM to assist in operating the educational channel, and they provide some support, and during this year they provided some programming support. So that we're still in the learning curve on that one as to how this is all working and how it will work going forward. But that's sort of where we are. However, we have a very exciting proposal, which Katie came up with, for the education channel which represents most of the money that we're talking about for the education channel tonight. And that is, as you know, this room is equipped with robotic cameras, and the school committee room is equipped with robotic cameras, and several of the meeting rooms and town hall are equipped so that town meetings of the town committees can be easily broadcast in good quality. Well, the high school has a room, a lecture hall, which they would like to equip with a robotic camera and with facilities so that teachers can go into the room with their students and give a lecture with PowerPoint slides and whatever in support, and it can be taped. We won't be able to do live broadcasts, but taped for showing on the education channel. And depending upon what the lecture's about, some of these lectures may even be appropriate for the public access or the government channel as well. And school organizations will be able to use it, guest lecturers. I'll let Katie describe more how this is going to work, but the committee is very excited about this.
Thank you, Sandy. So there's a room at the high school called Room 103, if anyone's ever been to, yeah. See,
Where you guys meet before every town meeting.
Right.
Right. It's you know, there's a lot of usage of Room 103. And so I thought it would be a great idea to turn it into something that could be recorded, a room that could be recorded. We were trying to get, and we're still doing this, we go into some classrooms with cameras to record teacher lectures. We do find that makes some students uncomfortable. Just you know, teenagers in cameras, if they can see them, they're a little, you know, squeamish. So if we have a robotic camera and set it up something like this, we thought they'd be more comfortable. They wouldn't even really be on the camera. It would just be for the purposes of recording the teacher and the lecture. The Hingham Educational Foundation has granted us some money for presentation equipment in that same room to make the whole thing a lot more enhanced than it already is. So we're going to have a permanent projector installed and a device to play back, like a laptop that'll play back for DVDs and for whatever kind of media you're running for your presentation. So we're excited about that, and we were happy that grant came through as well.
Super. Sandy, can one of you talk a little bit about this super server and why we're getting it, whether either you or Eric?
Yes, that's why I brought Eric.
Ah.
I have my technical assistants here. Eric will describe this super server, which we're also very excited about.
Yeah, so everything you see on HCAM, whether it's live or played back later, comes from a server. Essentially think of it as an iPod that manages your playlist for each channel. So we've got 3 channels, and currently now we've got 3 servers, like 3 iPods managing a playlist of what's playing out. It's about, what we've got now is about as fancy as an iPod, where you can really watch just one thing. And kind of some of the things we're looking to add are going to be some additional layering, some branding, the ability to put like what you're watching. If any of you are Verizon viewers, you might not only get Hingham, you might get neighboring communities as far away as Stowe, Massachusetts, I understand. So sometimes you tune in, you sit there for 15, 20 minutes watching a meeting and saying, this is really great, but I don't recognize that room. Well,
Or
we're
the
going to try
people.
to,
yeah, or the people, or the street names. We're going to try to address that. Obviously, there's going to be that branding. There's going to be, it's going to have the better Hingham feel. It's going to bring a lot more of an advanced, workflow. It's going to be able to be scheduled further out for us. We're currently limited to 7 days. So here we are Thursday. We can't schedule next Friday. The system we're looking at is scheduling until 2037 right now. So not that I think we're going to need to automate that far into the future, but certainly a major improvement. Everything also plugs into the web on both sides so that our producers, be they students or members at HCAM or any community member, will be able to submit their program through the cloud. And then that programming will also be made more readily available on the cloud for people to watch back as they do with these meetings and some other programming. So all around, it's really an updating of all the systems to work a lot better with our systems. And of course, there's also going to be a lot more of the kind of back end where you're going to get some nice data and stuff that's going to come out of that and work well to actually streamline our operations as well.
Very good. And can you tell a little bit for, really, I'm going to guess a good part of the audience doesn't understand how we get the money.
Okay. The money we got after some really tough negotiations with Verizon first and then Comcast. We negotiated with Verizon back in 2007 and entered into an agreement, the town did, to grant a franchise to Verizon. This was a new franchise because Verizon had not been in Hingham before. And we negotiated with them since they were not providing public access, and federal law requires cable companies to provide either the money for public access or provide the public access themselves. We negotiated with Verizon for $400,000 grant, which they have been paying over the course of the past several years from 2008, and the last payment will be made in 2015. And they made their bigger payments up front, but now we're down to $40,000 a year, and then next year's will be $20,000. So then the next year we negotiated with Comcast. Comcast had been providing cable access, but then they decided they wanted to get out of that business. So we said, fine, give us money. Now, Comcast also provides the iNet for the town. So the committee decided that that was worth about $200,000, and so we got $200,000 in cash from Comcast to go into our capital account. So that explains the difference between what Comcast pays and what Verizon pays. And we've been keeping that in a separate account. The treasurer's office keeps that separately, and about quarterly, I email Sue Nickerson, and I get a printout of what's been spent out of the accounts and what's come into it and what the balance is. And the balance at the moment is a little over $93,000 in the capital account, with a total of $60,000 more expected by the middle of 2015. So we have enough money in the capital account to spend on the things we're proposing today. Now, the operating account, since the cable companies were required not just to provide some capital so that we could get going, but also to support the operations of the 3 public access channels. And what was negotiated with them was 4.2% of their cable revenues from Hingham subscribers. And so that is what they provide. They provide it quarterly. It's a little over, well, 2013, it was something over $400,000 a year. Now, 85% of that goes to HCAM, because HCAM runs the public access channel and the government channel and assists the education channel. Some of that goes to fund a class in TV production at the high school. It's been funding 2 classes until HCAM got its training program up and running, and now its training program is very vibrant. So we're cutting down to 1 class at the high school for the upcoming fiscal year. So that's how we're spending that money. And I think I've told you that Linden Ponds is coming on as a Comcast subscriber. They have not been getting cable television in Hingham until now. And by June 9th, Comcast service will be at Linden Ponds. So that will increase the operating dollars that will be coming into the town for the operation of these 3 channels. And we're excited. We're trying to increase the vibrancy of our programming, and that's why we want to go with this great new server.
This is great. I also have to put a plug in for Sandy. Linden Ponds has a TV studio that most of the networks would like to have. But Sandy is very active and very good as an editor, even though she's a lawyer by trade. She's learned quite a bit, and she's very active, and she's very gracious about teaching people. So
Thank you, Irma.
I'll ask my two colleagues.
I don't have a TV, I don't have cable, but I have a computer, and I do watch some of the other meetings streaming in, and my question is the quality of that going to improve at all with what you're proposing here tonight?
Well, I can't address the quality of the streaming in the web, because we cannot use any of the cable funds for web streaming at the moment. That will require a change in federal law, and there are people who are trying to get that change in federal law. But I will say that certainly since we wired Town Hall with all these robotic cameras, the quality of the government channel on cable television has improved immensely. And since HCAM has been growing and becoming more vibrant, the quality of the public access has been improving. And I'm a member of HCAM too, and I just gave Eric a program today that I made. So and other people in Hingham are doing the same thing.
I'll just add one thing as well. There is also the problem that we are stuck with standard definition. We actually don't have the opportunity to broadcast in HD. So at this point, a lot of us are used to that HD signal. That's not something we are currently provided provision for by Comcast and Verizon. There has been some talk that because of this proposed Comcast Time Warner deal, that might be one bargaining chip that communities might actually have, and Comcast and Verizon might be able to use to try and make everybody else look favorably on this. So we may hopefully get HD channels at that time, if that happens.
And the committee is thinking, the town just got a notice that starting in 2008 with Verizon in 2009, or 2018 with Verizon and 2019 with Comcast, those franchises will be up for renewal. And one of the things the committee is thinking about in terms of negotiating is perhaps we could negotiate with them for some HD service for our public access and government access and educational access channels. So we're not there yet, but we're thinking about it.
I appreciate your effort. I find that I tune in to the other board meetings, and I really enjoy watching them, at a convenient time to myself. So my question is there any way that you can expand the capabilities within this building to televise more of the meetings?
We have a lot of capability in the building. What we have to get, and the selectmen can help on this, I think, is to get the chairs of the various committees to request that their meetings be televised. And HCAM will scare up people to run the cameras and televise them. We may not be able, we're limited to how many we can televise live, but we certainly can tape just about all that anybody wants to have taped if it's requested in advance.
You all were wonderful when we asked to tape the SNAP opening presentation.
Yep.
And in fact, it was a new person.
Yes.
Who was great. You couldn't tell it was his first time doing it, and it turned out beautifully.
Yeah, and in fact, I was going to say during budget season, I think we've done as many as 3 simultaneous meetings in this building. And yes, one does have to receive the determination of what's going to be live, but then everything else plays back, usually within a day or two.
Very good.
Good to know. Thank you.
Just briefly, Sandy, thank you. Eric, Katie, of course, I did speak to folks over the last several months and was getting up to speed, but that was great to fill in some of the gaps for me. I know Eric and I had talked over the last few months about some of the capabilities as well, and I want to thank you for your service as well. But I tell you, it has been one of my hopes, and I want to work cooperatively with some of the other committees, but I think in the interest of transparency and some of the folks that can't make the meetings, it's my hope that, committees, including advisory, will be televised so that some of the important financial decisions of the town can be viewed on TV. It seems like in 2014, and we have the capabilities, it's something that should happen.
I agree.
And it's interesting, you read the minutes, but you don't get the sense of the meeting, and you don't get the back and forth of what goes on, because I know I watch a lot of the meetings that I can't get to on the channel, and it is important. So it'd be great. Anything we can help you do to expand that coverage would be great. I'll open it up to the audience then. Any questions? Want to go back to questions on, no. That was a joke. Carol, come on.
I don't know if it's appropriate at this time, but
Go ahead and ask
out
it.
in the hallway, when I was talking to someone about the last issue, sewer, he said he thought that you didn't vote on that issue, so I just wanted to clarify that he didn't want me to bring it up, but I'm bringing it up
No, I
because in the
voted.
interest of transparency, okay, I just
I
wanted to
did.
confirm. I thought you
Yes.
did, but I just wanted to say.
No, I
So
did.
you both
Yes.
confirmed it, and you said present.
2 to
I just
1.
want to be sure.
2 to 1.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
No, it's not 2 to 1.
It's not 2 to 1.
2 to 0,
Zero.
1. The president is actually, I think, an
Abstain.
abstention.
Yeah.
Should I move?
Yes.
I move to approve the recommendation of the Cable TV Advisory Committee to disperse funds from the cable capital account, 2020, it says, in the amounts of $20,000 for the education channel and $36,000 to HCAM for the education and government shares of a new video server.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Want to do the next one, since these are
Sure.
companions?
I'll move along. So move to approve the recommendation of the Cable TV Advisory Committee to disperse funds from the cable operating account, number 2009, in the amounts of $600 for expenses associated with operating the education channel and $12,210 to HCAM for the education and government shares of operating cost of the new video server.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have just one more thing to mention to you. In about a year ago in a month, we did that flash mob at the middle school. We've been Emmy nominated for that, and we'll find out in just under a month.
Seriously.
So
Awesome.
I'll be sharing that with you.
That was fantastic.
I
Well, come back.
will.
Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. White. Hello. And after you're done with this, can you tell everyone the good news?
Well, it depends
Deals
on what
Co.
it is.
Sure.
All yours.
I am Tim White. I am the chair of the Hingham Affordable Housing Trust, and I am here tonight to ask the Board of Selectmen to authorize us to proceed with seeking RFPs for the so-called Selectmen's Parcel. I have been here previously, perhaps last fall or early this past winter, to advise and update the Board of Selectmen and the community that we had retained Community Opportunity Group to prepare an RFP for us so that we can obtain a number of proposals and suggestions as to what the best use of the Selectmen's Parcel would be. The Selectmen's Parcel being approximately 10 acres of land off of Beale Street. We now have an RFP proposal from Community Opportunities Group, and I'm here tonight to ask you folks to authorize us to proceed with it.
Paul and Paul. Questions?
I don't have any right this minute.
This is a lit project, Tim?
It will be a LIP project, yes, that's correct.
And this is only to gather ideas. This
It is. That's
to
the
do
whole,
it.
that's
And
the
I-
whole idea, is that, and that the trust is anxious to get a variety of ideas as to how we should best develop the project. Obviously, consistent with the town meeting warrant article that indicated how we should proceed with certain limitations in respect to 20 to 40 units and different affordability levels.
And there'll be lots of public input.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are there any site issues over there you got to grapple with? 2020? that kind of-
Wetlands.
Wetlands.
Wetlands, yep, which actually I think Paul will actually serve a real positive purpose for us in that it will necessarily separate some of the development and make it more easy on the eyes.
I think traffic's going to be a serious issue, because when this was voted, a number of the dense developments weren't in there. Weather Lane wasn't there, 80 Beale Street wasn't there.
Well, do you envision it connecting to Bear Cove Drive there?
You know,
Or is that premature?
It is premature. I mean, the whole idea of this RFP is for us to get the various ideas that might be out there from developers and for us to weigh them and decide amongst ourselves as to what we see as in the best interests of the town of Hingham.
This is, as opposed to the, whether there's any kind of preference or anything, this is just kind of the actual on-the-ground construction.
No. This is if you kind of go back to how we approached the 80 Beale Street project, we hired the consultant to come in and to give us ideas as to how we saw we wanted to see it develop before we turned it over to a developer. And so that once it went to the developer, we'd already gone through the 40B. We had the most friendly 40B process that certainly Hingham recognized that they'd ever seen before. And we hope to do the same with this project as well.
That's it? All team? Nothing? Anything from the audience? Yes, Mr. Healy, if you would.
Sure. I move that we authorize the Hingham Affordable Housing Trust to issue an RFP for design plans, specifications, and permitting services for an affordable housing development that is proposed to be constructed on the so-called Selectmen's parcel.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, before, I'm not letting you go until you tell the good news.
Well, as an afterward, the Affordable Housing Trust has signed a purchase and sales agreement to purchase a unit in the Bear Cove condominium project to purchase one of the units and make it a permanently affordable unit to increase our affordable units in town. We are right now going through the pre-purchase stage. We have a couple of title issues that need to be resolved, but we don't anticipate a problem with them and expect to be closing on it sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
And the property at Beals Cove?
Beals Cove, yeah.
I think that's very...
Question on that?
Sure.
When they offer it, is there a certain percentage of market, or is there a certain price, that you would?
DHCD, actually, the interesting thing here is that what we're purchasing it for, which is $158,000 is the purchase and sales agreement, is actually less than what we would be entitled to resell it for and maintain it as an affordable unit. Now, obviously, the market's going to dictate that, but it's going to be well within the limits, so that's the good news.
Cool.
Yep.
That's great news.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
All right. Good job, Council.
Thanks. Yeah.
Cool, we're almost done. Why don't we do the vote, and then we will do the appointment, and then we'll do the reports. Want to do that?
Are we doing
This one.
Oh, sure. I move to appoint Paula M. Bagger as the Hingham's Historic Society's representative to the Historic Archives Task Force.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. How about town administrator and selectman
You
report?
vote the Selectmen's parcel?
Did we? I
RFP?
thought we did.
I thought we did.
I thought we did.
We did, right?
So interested in the Beals Cove condominium? I missed it.
Afterwards, we started talking about.
Yeah. That is very exciting. Ted?
Sure. A couple items I'd like to bring to your attention that came up this week. One is FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, has requested additional information on our filing to amend the town's flood maps, and Peter Williams of GZA is gathering the requested information. We believe this is a positive development for us, that they're actively working on our case and asking us for additional information that we can provide. And my understanding that information will be given to them next week. We are still well ahead of the October 1 deadline that we've tried to get these flood maps changed prior to. A letter going out to the North Street property owners, probably early part of next week, the end of this week, regarding the underground electric connections. The light plant has finished their side of the work, and now each of the property owners are going to have to retain an electrician and make that connection. They're aware of that. We had discussed that at the beginning of the project. Once the connection is made to the underground utility and the areas are all one after the other taken care of, then the poles can begin coming down. The light plant will take care of that. And of course, anyone receiving a letter, if they have any questions, can contact either Roger Fernandez at the Department of Public Works or the Selectmen's office, and we will help however we can with that. And I'll just point out also, I know that you had a meeting, but we weren't on TV when we did it, so the town did sell bond anticipation notes last week at the historically low rate of 11.6 basis points. That's 0.011%. 0.116%. The issue was also 7 times oversubscribed, consistent with our last several issues, which shows incredibly strong demand for Hingham debt. A lot of people have drawn some different conclusions for the economic impact of why people want security now. They want to make sure that when they lend money, it'll come back, and that's certainly the message that Hingham delivers. And the rating agencies have again, look favorably upon us, and our rate has done better than average AAAs in the region. And also, road construction projects have begun on Abington Street, Lozelle Street, Martins Lane, and National Grid is expected to continue working on Fort Hill for the next 4 weeks, and Union Street will commence after the 4th of July.
Ted, do you think we could ask Harry and Roger to put together maybe a one-pager? Because after listening to all the grant of locations today, we've got some that haven't been scheduled yet, and then we have the normal road construction. Because it sounds like a good percent of the town is going to experience upheaval? Is that the word I want? For the town?
They've already done that. I've incorporated some summary notes in my report to you, but I can give you their whole report.
Well, and I make it available to the citizens?
It's already on the webpage. So anyone can look on the town's webpage and see exactly what we're going to be working on and when.
So we'll know it's gas or?
Correct. Okay. And also, as I mentioned to you earlier, we're going to be making our first endeavor into social media, starting with Twitter. For those who follow the town, we will be able to notify you each day as to what the nature of the project and where it's going, and et cetera.
Hi. Paul?
A couple things. I'd like to say well done to the Highway Department. I've had the pleasure of going down Abington Street with its newly paved roadway, and that sure is fun. It's probably going to be a lot faster than it was. I think they're doing a great job on the islands and the trees going in on the Main Street corridor. I had a very pleasant, and I mean this sincerely, interaction with the tax collector. I had a little bit of a problem that they handled quite well. And finally, I want to respond to Mr. Hersey's comments last week. I thought about what he said, and he was talking about the haves and the have-nots and the red bag. So I belong to the St. Vincent de Paul Society, and we were talking about this last night. And apparently this red bag that was distributed throughout the mail to the residents in town is going to be an annual initiative in May. And that led to the collection of 10,000 pounds of food that was donated in large part to the Hingham Food Pantry. So thank you to the post office here in Hingham and the men and women who work there for that effort. The Hingham Food Pantry is an extremely vibrant resource for 165 families here in town, and they distribute 8,000 pounds of food a month. So there is a need. It's being addressed effectively, and some of you may have seen these signs post-election that are appearing here and there, "Tour by the Sea." Well, apparently, it's a group of 5 Hingham women who, on their initiative, are hosting this tour of these houses. And it's scheduled to go, I think it's, I wrote this one down, June 8th. Yep, June 8th, from 11 to 3. It's a Sunday. And the proceeds are going to be donated to the Hingham Food Pantry. So it's a very worthwhile cause. You know, I'd like to think, yes, the town is fortunate. We're very fortunate to live where we do, but we're equally fortunate because there's people within our town, and I'm sure the two of you know many of them as well, that are dedicated to helping people less fortunate. There's different groups. Women Aid is another one that comes to mind. But I just didn't want the impression left that, you know, we're indifferent to the plight of people that are less fortunate than us. I'm not sure if that was the message that was being conveyed, but my takeaway was that, you know, we're aware, we're trying. This is a constant, ongoing effort, and I just wanted the public to be generally aware of the food pantry's efforts in relation to that red bag that appeared at their doorstep.
Well, the post office, that was a good point.
Yeah.
They've been doing the food drive for a number of years. This was the first year, and I have to thank them, because usually we're running around looking for a bag. This is the first year that they have provided the bags, which was pretty cool.
There's also another food pantry at the Church of the Nazarene, which is on North and Thaxter, and that's for the homeless. So they're out there. You don't see them that well, but they're out there.
Good point.
That's all I have to say.
Mr. G. Oh.
It's, well, if you go to the website, it's www.tourbythesea.com. There are 5 residents, Hingham ladies. I don't know them, but that's my information, and I'm just happy that they're stepping forward. Shows a real generous heart and spirit.
So just briefly, I think a couple of meetings ago, at the end, we were talking about the New England Center for Homeless Veterans and the CrossFit Murph competition, and
He was in it.
I'm happy to say that it was a very well-attended. I saw Ted there. They had
Not running.
Not running, but he was there.
He was thinking about it.
No, I was not. No, I was
Talked
not.
to Irma and Paul about it at different points in time. But the wonderful thing about it was not only that it raised money for a very great cause, it also challenged people like me to do something I'd never done before. But there were many sports teams from Hingham and Silver Lake, I think, as well, a softball team, all came down and participated. And I would tell you this, it was something that I would do again. It was a lot of fun, and the only thing I can tell you is that for about 4 days, ending today, I was extremely sore from doing 150 squats, which I don't normally do, but it was a great and worthwhile event.
I can let you know that my daughter and the rest of the team who did come up did tell me that the squats did hurt the next couple of days.
That's a fact.
Different when you use different muscle groups.
That's a fact.
And we want to thank, because echoing what Paul is saying, thankfully I had an excuse. We were doing a graduation in town, otherwise, because I said I would have done it. The weak one, though. I want to thank the people, and I know I'm going to miss somebody, but it was Reebok CrossFit, Wahlburgers, the Hingham Sports Partnership, and a couple other groups, and I don't remember them off the top of my head, but we'd all like to thank them very much for raising the money for the homeless veterans.
Here.
Okay, I've got a couple things. First off, we had a retirement in the fire department, one of my very favorites. Chuck Bacon, firefighter, master mechanic, retired just short of 35 years of service. He joined the department July 2nd, 1979. He is going to be very much missed. For those of us that have gone through the CERT team, and for many of the kids in school, Chuck was known as stop, drop, and roll. He used to go into and if you ever see him do this presentation, you will never forget it, and you look at the man and you go, stop, drop, and roll. One of the things the fire departments found when a house is on fire, kids will hide. And they will hide, especially when they see the firemen, who look like Darth Vader and everything else and are making very funny sounds. So Chuck would go into the schools, and he had this little stop, drop, and roll pitch, but he would put on all of his firefighter gear. And it was so that the kids would get used to, this is a good person, this is somebody that's going to help you. So for all of us that have known him for years, I will always know him as stop, drop, and roll. So that, and Ted, Paul Gannon, and myself went to a birthday party this week. I ate your piece of cake.
No problem, I don't need any more.
And we want to thank very, very much Elder Services and the Council on Aging for throwing one heck of a party the only way you got invited, you had to be at least 90 years old and live in Hingham. And here are the statistics. So I'm close. 398 invitations were sent out for people that, as of 5/21/14, were 90 or greater. Wow. And it's amazing. And if you saw these people, they don't look, as Gigi said, they don't look a day over 39. I was amazed. I hope I look that good when I get half their age. So these are all people registered to vote. 297 of them, or 75%, were females. 101, or 25%, were males. And at the luncheon, there were 102 people attending. The oldest resident, Helen Duffy, was 104, and she will turn 105 on June 2nd. That was amazing.
We wished her happy birthday a little early.
She didn't drive there, did she?
Her Ferrari was parked right outside. Amazing.
It's off the record.
Amazing. Happy birthday, Helen, and happy birthday to all. But a fabulous job was done by Elder Services, Barbara Farnsworth, her crew, and the Council on Aging, headed up by Chris Ann Gregoire. All right, I'm making my pitch again for the 4th of July parade fundraiser. Would you, Bob, we're going to put up the Selectmen's Cup.
So we need about 24 foursomes to join this, or a little more than that. I think we're looking at targeting 30 foursomes. Right now, we have 2.
So come on, guys.
Now, it always is a last-minute, late sign-up thing, but for those of you who appreciate the work that Jay McGrail does over the country club right now, we're giving him a little bit of a heart attack, worrying that there's going to be a party and no one's going to show up to it. So if we can get some enrollment, that'd be great.
Please, and spread the word, because everybody loves golf, whether you can play it or not. We also want to thank Talbot's for throwing a fundraiser for the party, for the parade. About a week or so ago, my days are running into other days. They had a lovely evening party with hors d'oeuvres and all kinds of things, and with prizes, and I got to pick one of the prizes, and I picked Barbara Hood's name, who lives directly across the street from Town Hall, and I've known her forever. So that was kind of exciting. Another golf tournament, swap. The first annual Ed Monahan Memorial Golf Tournament is going to be at South Shore Country Club, June 23rd, and it's to establish a scholarship at St. Paul's School in Ed's name. And you all remember Ed was our much-beloved sewer commissioner who passed on very unexpectedly. And it's going to be to create a scholarship and also a donation to Hingham Veteran Services, which he was very, very involved in. And the next thing I have is Talent Bank. Everybody that said, gee, I want to be on a committee, okay, step up. Fill out the Talent Bank form. We've already done one set of interviews. There'll be at least one more. So if you want to serve on a committee, if you fill that out, send your resume and tell us the committees that you would like to serve on. We would very much appreciate it. We want new people on these committees. You get tired of seeing Paul Healy and I on things.
Sometimes.
No, seriously, we do want new people on the committees. It's important to keep these committees going. Hingham is very lucky, and one of the reasons we have such a strong government is our committees are very strong.
Totally agree.
And the last thing I have is, don't forget Memorial Day on Monday. There are ceremonies Monday morning, and they're great. We are having a Rear Admiral. She reports directly to Hagel, the Secretary of Defense, and she will be here as the guest speaker, and we'll have all kinds of other things, so please come. Nothing else? Betty? Nothing?
Nothing.
Okay, where's this little thing I have to read?
Have a good holiday, everybody.
Yep. All right, we're going to, yes, from all of us, a good holiday, a nice long weekend, and don't forget the talent bank forums. And again, we are going to do our best to enhance the level of transparency and minimize the number of executive sessions. We do have to have one tonight. So I recommend the board enter executive session for the purpose of, 1, discussing strategy with regard to litigation with the water company, and 2, discussing strategy with regard to contract negotiations with non-union personnel, since discussion of these matters in open session could be detrimental to the negotiating position of the town. The board will not resume open session this evening. Roll call vote.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Good night, happy Memorial Day, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.